Okay, it's 6 p.m. on my clock, so I think it's a good time to begin. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining this webinar today. And what we're going to do for the next 1 hour is that we're going to talk about the online GMAT. And I'm going to take you through a small presentation that I have prepared for to tell you about all the features of the online GMAT exam. I'm Sehar Khanna, and I'm the marketing manager for South Asia for GMAC. Which is Graduate Management Admission Council, and we host and own the GMAT exam and the NMAT and the EA exam. Next, after me, we will have Professor Viswanathan, who's right here with us, and I'm sure everyone can see him. He's going to take us through the one-year MBA program at IIM Udaipur, and then we'll take on questions only for Sir Viswanathan, because we want to keep the question answers separate for IIM Udaipur and IIM Kozhikode, because we don't want to kind of mix them. After questions related to IIM Udaipur, we will have a session by Professor Venkataraman, and who's going to take us through the PGP Business Leadership Program at IIM Kozhikode, and then we'll end it with question and answers for IIM Kozhikode. So please keep your questions limited to that particular time. At 6:35, hopefully if we all go with the time slots that are mentioned here, we'll have 5 minutes for each questions for IIM Udaipur as well as IIM Kozhikode. Without much ado, let me first introduce Professor Viswanathan. He has been the faculty member in the finance and accounting area of IIM Udaipur since 2013. He's also a member of IIM Udaipur's one-year MBA program committee. He's a fellow in management from XLRI and holds a postgraduate diploma in management from IIM Calcutta. Welcome, sir. Thank you so much for taking out the time today for this webinar.
Thank you, and good to be here.
We'll also be joined by Professor Venkataraman, and I'm going to make the introduction, I think, when he comes. So without much further ado, let me begin by demystifying the online GMAT for everyone here. More or less, the online GMAT is very much like the GMAT at the test center. There are only a few changes that are, that we've made to the exam, just to make sure that the delivery experience is, very smooth, and it is very much like the test that you take at the test center. As far as structure or content is concerned, it's really the same exam, except for the fact that there is no AWA section, which is the essay writing section. That is not there in the online GMAT. Other than that, quant and verbal is there, and even IR is there as part of the online GMAT exam. As far as the delivery is concerned, we have Pearson VUE. We are using the same delivery partner as we do for our test centers. We have Pearson VUE, who has their software called the OnView software, which is something that you'll have to download to take the online GMAT exam. And it's a human proctored exam. So make sure that you're well aware that your video feed, so throughout your test, your video webcam will be recording your video. And that video feed will be seen by a proctor, a human proctor, throughout the test. So these are some of the security protocols, obviously, that we had to make sure that the online exam is also seamlessly taken. The other bit is that the online GMAT exam, like the GMAT at the test center, is also a widely accepted program. It is accepted by more than 7,000 business programs for more than 2,400 business schools across, the world. So that it's just, I'm mentioning this because, there shouldn't be any doubt in your mind that online GMAT is any different for acceptability or score compatibility, etc. So it's really the same exam that you can sit at home and take. As far as some details on the structure, scores, and experience is concerned, like I said, there's no AWA section. Other than that, quant, verbal, and IR is there. There's a fixed section order. So this is one little change, whereas at your test center, you could select the section order of the test and give it at your convenience. But this one, you have to give it in a particular order, which is quant first, then verbal, and then IR. Also, your number of your time per question remains the same, because the number of questions remain the same per section. So as such, there's no change in your preparation at all. The scores are also valid for 5 years, like it is for GMAT at the test center. So that you really don't have to worry on the validity of the score, and even the reliability for that matter. Also, all the schools, obviously, all our member schools, key schools were contacted. And we, in fact, before the launch of the test, we made sure that all schools buy into this online GMAT score, and schools like all IIMs are more than happy to accept the online GMAT score as well. The good advantage, in fact, a great benefit that you have with one of the features of the online GMAT is actually you can send your score free of cost to all programs, to infinite number of programs that you want to. So otherwise, for a GMAT at the test center, you had to pay $35 each to send your score to a particular program. This is after the 5 free that you got. But in this one, you actually have unlimited number of programs option. As you can just send it to as many programs as you want to, free of cost. And the other benefit is also, as far as price is concerned, that it is $50 cheaper than the GMAT at test center. So the online GMAT, you can actually take it at $200, and you can book the appointment any time of the day. So you can even book an appointment at 2 in the morning, whenever you find some quiet time in your house. So you can just book it. So it's 24 hours. That gives you a lot of flexibility and convenience for that matter. Talking about breaks and the structure of the exam, there is some little difference in your GMAT at test center. You have 2 optional breaks, 8 minutes each. At GMAT at home, you have 1 optional break, which is of 5 minutes, which is between the verbal and the IR section. So you don't have a break as of now between quant and verbal, but you do have a break between verbal and IR, a 5-minute break that you can use. The other bit is there's a lot of chat that has happened on the whiteboard, and a great feature now is that you can actually use a physical whiteboard. So I'll talk more about it in forthcoming slides, but just wanted to let you know that now you have the option of a physical whiteboard that you can order from any of the retailers, be it Amazon, Flipkart, or any of your offline shops if you feel they are accessible and safe to go to. But there is no repeat testing. That is something that stays on for online GMAT. There is no repeat testing as of now, so you can only take it once. So I would say just use that opportunity that you have till it exists. And also accommodations are also available for people who need extra time because of some of the other disability. If they need extra time in their test or during the breaks, we do have accommodations available. This is all about the structure of the test. I've discussed this before. You start with the check-in process, which will take about 5 minutes. At max, it can take about 15 minutes, depending on when your proctor arrives. Your check-in process involves a few things where you need to upload pictures of the environment around. You need to kind of take a 360-degree scan. You also need to upload your own picture. You need to upload a photo ID, etc. Also, sometimes they might ask you to show the photo ID right next to the webcam. So you have to kind of just show the card on the webcam to the proctor. When I say card, sorry, I mean the passport. That is the official ID that is accepted for GMAT Online as well. So you just have to kind of also show the passport. They might ask you to also upload it. So make sure that your passport is around when you're checking in for the GMAT. And then you begin with your test. You start with quant section, and then you follow it up with verbal. Then you take a 5-minute break, and then you start your IR. Also, make sure that you come back within 5 minutes of your break, because otherwise your IR time will be lost. So because this is timed, so you won't be given any extra time in case you're late back from your break. When I say back from your break, I mean that you can actually get up from your seat and from your chair. You can actually move around. You can use the washroom. You can do whatever you want to in those 5 minutes, and then come back and then sit for the exam. Make sure that your video feed is still on throughout. These are some basic things to know, some fundamentals about the online GMAT exam. It's for $200. Like I said before, you can register through mba.com. That's the site that you go to for online GMAT as well. And you can also use the same site to book at the test center. And I'll take a minute here to let you all know that some of our test centers are actually open. So I'd also share a link with you. It's a very simple link. It's maybe I'll just use the chat window to kind of type the link. It's mba.com/find-a-seat. This is the link that you go to, and you can actually, I've posted it there. You can actually just find out whether the test center close to you is open or not. So you can just find that out, book an appointment at the test center if that's a more convenient medium for you. So we are open to, obviously, both options are open as of now. And we will continue to offer the online solution till the pandemic, obviously, is still there in India. and across the world. So as of now, you can book online appointments till the 17th of July, but we might also extend it depending on the situation then. But as of now, just wanted to tell you guys that the test center option is also open. For example, that I know Delhi, Bangalore, Hyderabad, most of the test centers are open here. In fact, some of them are also open in Jaipur, even Mumbai for that matter. They are accepting appointments. Just make sure that you get your convenience slot, etc., by looking at the site that I just mentioned. Make sure you wear a mask. That's a mandate for you to take the test at the test center. You have to carry your own mask. If you're not wearing a mask at the test center, you will be rejected. You will have to cancel your appointment, and you might have to reschedule it, etc. So don't go through all of that pain. Make sure that you carry your own mask, and you have to also wear it throughout the test. It's one of the health and safety procedures that we are following. There'll be obviously social distancing measures. So appointments are, you just make sure that you book it in advance so that you get the right slot that you want to. But otherwise, sanitation, etc., everything is being taken care of. Your equipment is all sanitized before every use. So you don't have to worry on any health and safety precaution measures at the test center. Okay, so I think I've already discussed the score validity, which is for 5 years for both, be it test center or online GMAT. And then you can, in the online GMAT, you have that facility to review your score after you actually take the exam. You will get about 7 days when you will actually receive your official scorecard. And then once you see the scorecard, you can send it to as many programs as you want to, free of cost. Moving on, I've already discussed about the registration. It is on mba.com. You will easily be able to find it. It's under the exam section. And check-in process, I've spoken at length about it, but if you want to kind of take a screenshot of the slide, feel free to. All of this information is also available on mba.com. But there will be a system test that will be run on your system before you actually start the test. So you might be asked to kind of close certain applications or remove certain applications because of just the security protocol that has to be followed. Other than that, like I said, you just have to upload a few pictures of the surroundings. You might have to give via your webcam. You just might have to kind of give a scan to the proctor, and once the proctor feels comfortable, then you can start your test. This is the online whiteboard. This is what the online whiteboard looks like. You can obviously have a detailed look at mba.com/GMAT online. This is where you will find the online whiteboard. We are actually offering the tool for you guys to actually see how to use your online whiteboard and how to practice on it. So you can do that. And moving on, we also have the physical whiteboard available. And these are some of the requirements that you need to have if you're planning to use the whiteboard. You will need to have an erasable whiteboard, which is no larger than 12 inches into 20 inches, which is pretty big. Actually, this is another, I think, advantage that you have with the online GMAT, that at home, when you're actually ordering for your own whiteboard, it is much bigger, so you don't have to do too much of erasing, and you have a much wider board to work on your problems. I think that's an advantage. And there are some links that maybe I'll share towards in the chat window when you have your question and answers. Some links of Amazon and Flipkart from where you can actually buy those whiteboards, which follow this criteria of the whiteboard doesn't have to have any grid or markings. No background colors are allowed. So it has to be totally white. And even the other side, you cannot have a writing side which is of another color. It has to be white, or it has to be just cardboard where you cannot write. So those are some basic changes, basic things that you need to be very particular before actually ordering for a whiteboard. You also will need erasable markers. It's okay to have 2 erasable markers so that in case one of it dries up or there's giving you some problem during the test, you can use the second one. There's also a few things are already mentioned on the slide. the whiteboards that you have to make sure are not writing tablets, or you're not using any paper pen. When I say writing tablets, is those electronic whiteboards. You don't have to use those. There's a traditional whiteboard that you'll be required to use for the test. And rest, all of the things, I think, requirements you should go through on mba.com. I'm going to share links towards the end of my session. So all of this is obviously done to make sure that it's a fair and secure environment for the test. So like I said, you'll be asked to maybe block or remove certain applications from your system. Also, there's a live human proctor throughout who's there to help you in case you kind of get stuck somewhere. So you can talk, or you can just raise your hand and he or she is going to reach out to you. About score sending, like I said, within 7 days, you should get your score. And after receiving your score, you can actually decide where all do you want to send it. And that particular school is going to get your score within 24 hours. Some of the common questions that I have been getting from the other webinars. So we kind of put all of those together in these 2 slides. Let me just answer them before I'm asked in the chat window. So some questions are about test center. So I get this question a lot, whether I should take the test at the test center or I should take it online. Well, it is up to you. We are giving both options to you. So make sure that your test center around you is open in case you're planning to go. And if you feel safe and secure, you're encouraged to go to the test center. Otherwise, in case you want to take it from home and you're not very comfortable wearing the mask, etc., then I would say book an appointment at home and take it at any time that you think is convenient for you to. Also, appointment management, there is no transferring allowed. So in case you've blocked your appointment at the test center, you cannot transfer it for a GMAT at home. You need to actually cancel one and book a fresh appointment for the other. So that's something that I thought I should just point out. The other bit is that this online GMAT does not count towards your yearly and your lifetime attempts. You get 8 attempts in a lifetime, 5 attempts in a year. This online GMAT does not count in those attempts. So, and it's the exam that you can take only once. So make sure that you use this opportunity. System requirements, etc. I get a lot of questions on what kind of webcam to use, etc. I'm going to post a link after the session on system requirements. So just go through that before booking your slot, your GMAT at home. But otherwise, basic requirements, you should know that you cannot take it on the iPad or the phone. You have to take the online GMAT on your laptop or your computer with Mac, Windows OS, anything will work. With webcam, there's only a minimum resolution that's required. And I'm going to post that link in the chat window later. No mobile hotspots are permitted. You will have to use your LAN or your Wi-Fi, and your minimum speed required is 1 Mbps. So that's something that's minimum. So make sure you have a reliable, stable internet connection, and no phones or smartwatches or dual monitors or touch screen. Even if you have a touch screen, you cannot use your stylus or your fingers on the touch screen. So you cannot use the features of the touch screen, and you cannot use any external device. You cannot regularly plug it in your system and use it. Your proctor will immediately tell you that this is objectionable, and if you're caught using it, obviously your test will be cancelled. And as far as the score comparability and flexibility is concerned, we actually did this survey very recently where we took candidates who had taken the exam at the test center and also saw those same candidates who had taken the online GMAT at home. The scores were comparable. In fact, the completion rate also was very similar. So there's absolutely no difference in online GMAT or the test center GMAT. And so you can actually just know that for sure that it's basically just 2 different mediums that we're offering because of the pandemic that we're all going through. It was an interim solution that was launched, and it obviously will continue till the pandemic exists. My last bit is on the preparation. I get this question again a lot on from where do we buy the official guide. At some areas, maybe Amazon is not delivering. Now I'm sure it is in most of the areas, but in case you're hesitant in ordering books through Amazon or Flipkart, you can also use the e-version of the OG. And this is the link, wileyindia.com/gmat/. So I'm going to post all of these links later in the chat window, so don't worry. but you can use the online version of the OG and start preparing for GMAT. This is, I would say, an ideal time to prepare for these tests, because you actually can bank the score for 5 years, and all you need is just 2 months to prepare, or maybe even lesser to prepare. And also know that all our mock exams that are available have the online whiteboard option. So in case you want to practice using the online whiteboard, you have that option. My last bit is on connectivity, because there are a lot of questions that we get on what about internet connection? What if we lose our internet connection for a minute? And what if power goes off? What do we do? How does the test, will our answers be still stored at the back end? A short answer to that would be that there is some resilience built into the system already. So in case you lose power or your internet connection for a minute, then your answers will be stored, and you don't have to worry. When you resume the test, your exam time will not be lost, and you will begin from the same question where you left at. But in case it goes for a really long time, then our systems will not be able to store those answers. And because of that, you obviously, after going through a technical verification, etc., which will happen at the back end, you might be asked to take the test again. But this is only in case that the exam does not resume. But otherwise, the proctor is also going to try his level best with the technical support team to make sure your exam comes back. But in case your power goes for a long time, which is not in control, or your internet connection goes for a longer time, then you will have to take a retest later. So you will have to obviously schedule the test at your own convenient time later. But we are not going to charge for that. So there'll be no fees charged for taking the test again in case there's a technical issue. Also, I wanted to know, since we're talking about retesting, otherwise in normal circumstances, retesting is not allowed. But in case you have taken the GMAT using the online whiteboard, you can actually take the online GMAT again using the physical whiteboard. Since it's a new feature that we announced, and from 11th of June, all those candidates who are booking their exams online can use the physical whiteboard. You guys can also book a test again, but you'll have to pay the fee again. But you can definitely take the test using the physical whiteboard. These are some important links. Feel free to take a screenshot of these links in case you think they're useful. Like I said, the test center status, make sure you check it and then book your appointments online. For the test, for the GMAT at Test Center. System requirements, I'm going to post it. And FAQs, that last link is really important, I think. It has some, all the questions that you can think of about the online GMAT have been answered on nba.com. So make sure you make use of that link. And I will actually stop talking here, and I'll post some of the links in the chat window. And I'll take this opportunity to introduce Venkataraman sir, since I can see him on the screen now. Professor Venkataraman is a faculty in strategic management area at IIM Kozhikode since 2018. He's also a chairperson of postgraduate program in business leadership and IIMK, Kochi campus, Kerala. And he has a PhD in strategic management and corporate sustainability from the IIM Calcutta. So thank you so much for joining us, sir. Okay, so can we have Professor Viswanathan? Can you start by talking about IIM Udaipur? We can show your presentation up. Great, thank you.
Thanks, Sehar. And good evening, Professor Venkataraman. And good evening to all the others who have joined on this webinar. And thank you for your greetings, which you conveyed through the chat window. So I'll be talking about IIM Udaipur's 1-year MBA program. So we have two 1-year MBA programs. One specializes in digital enterprise management, and the other one specializes in global supply chain management. So I'll be briefly talking about this. So to start off, to let you know a little bit about IIM Udaipur, you may be familiar with it. Is the presentation visible?
No, as of now, we cannot see the presentation. Amar, can you show it up? I also just request sirs to not not press on the word remove, because all panelists, actually all three of us, have access to the presentation. So if you go and remove, it will get removed for everyone.
Got it. Yeah. All right. So IIM Udaipur is among the newer IIMs. It started in 2011, so it's not all that new now, but at the same time, we're fairly young. Uh, it's like I said, located in Udaipur, and for those of you who are imagining deserts and camels, no, Udaipur actually is a city of lakes and hills. Uh, so, what we are very proud about in IIM Udaipur is the fact that in its 9-year history, we have made a lot of progress pretty rapidly. We are, we got AACSB accreditation, which is accreditation from the American Association of Collegiate Schools of Business. It's a fairly prestigious accreditation to have, and we got it within 8 years of starting the institute. Uh, we have featured already in the Financial Times and QS Masters in Management rankings. Uh, we are doing pretty well in terms of our research output. We are among the leading Indian institutes already in a fairly short span of time. And we on the NIRF ranking, which comes from the Government of India, we are currently ranked number 17, which we believe is fairly creditable given the short amount of time that we've been around. Um, so that's just to tell you a little bit about the institute. I'm sure you can find out more from our website. Moving on to the programs that we are talking about now, both of these are programs which are specialize in certain areas. Okay? These are 1-year programs. They are full-time MBA programs. That's the idea. They're residential once the pandemic permits. Uh, so the idea here is that all students get a grounding in the fundamentals of all areas of management. But then, depending on whether you are in the DEM program, the Digital Enterprise Management program, or the GSTM program, you specialize in depth in that particular area. Of course, IIM Udaipur's philosophy focuses on transformation of the student. So we are aiming to create managerial leadership and entrepreneurial talent, and I would like to specifically stress on the last one. We place considerable importance on the entrepreneurship part as well. And the idea is that not only do you learn the subject, but at the end of the program, you are transformed as a person and as a manager. And towards that objective, one of the key components is experiential learning, and I'll talk a little bit more about it in a future slide. Um, so I would also like to highlight that these two programs, of course, we have a 2-year MBA program, which is a general management program, but these two programs, given that they're specialized programs, there has been considerable collaboration that we have had with industry. And the inputs from these industry people has been incorporated in these programs. So we have an advisory board for both programs, and as you can see from the names on the slide, these are leaders in their respective spaces, and their continuous involvement and engagement has been very useful to us, and it has helped in developing these programs, its curriculum, and delivery. Uh, Not sure if this is very visible, but let me just say what I'm talking about. So the programs are, the GSCM program is structured around on 3 modules. Okay? So the first module is around 4.5 months, and that is where we focus on delivering the fundamentals of management across areas from finance, accounting, organizational behavior, marketing management, operations management, all of them, right? To make sure that you have a strong grounding in general management. And then in module 2 is where we get in depth into global supply chain management, right? So there are courses there which strengthen your knowledge there. And in module 3, you again get an opportunity to take up electives which from your area of interest, so that again strengthens your general management capability. But you go into certain areas in greater depth. This program has been in existence. The first batch graduated in 2013, so it's been around for 8 years now, and it has been fairly successful. It's a fairly small batch size that we generally have, and that kind of gives a nice cozy atmosphere, and we believe that it helps add value to the student in that format. Uh, and we have had some fairly good results in terms of students getting placed in various leading companies. The other one-year MBA program is what we call Digital Enterprise Management. This was launched only this year, so next year would be the second batch. But the idea was that we focus on more and more industries and organizations are moving digital. So either there are organizations which are built on an entirely digital business model, or there are those which are transforming themselves to adopt a digital strategy. And so we thought that this would be a good area to focus on. And interestingly, though we didn't intend it that way, both of these areas seem to have come to the forefront in this recent COVID situation. And the supply chain management is, a lot of challenges on that front, and we expect that the world would change there, and there would be a lot of management skills in that area would be quite valuable. And many of the solutions which are coming about are digitally based. And so it so happens that these two are fairly happening areas now. So these are the two programs. Of course, we can talk in greater detail. If you are interested, you can connect with us, and we would, of course, be having other webinars in future. But the eligibility criteria here to apply are that you should be a 10+2 plus a 3-year degree, and you should have a valid GMAT or GRE score, and that includes the online GMAT format, which is a very interesting innovation and which is very timely. All students who get into these programs need to have at least 36 months of work experience. That's a minimum requirement. The program generally starts in April. This year it was a little delayed because of reasons we all know. And the admission process typically starts in August, but we will be getting back to you with specific dates. So broadly, that is what I wanted to let you know about, and I'm happy to take any questions that you may have.
Thank you so much, sir, for taking us through the presentation. If there are any questions for IIM Udaipur, I'd request you to please use the chat window. So I had a question. How about the classes format? Because that's something that candidates usually are asking these days. So is there a hybrid model that you are planning to for the course? Is it going to be partially online, and the rest is going to be in classrooms, or is it going to be all in class while maintaining some social distancing norms? So just considering the COVID situation, how are you planning to carry on with the course?
Thanks. So see, the students who would apply now, the program for them would start sometime maybe in April next year. Okay, so there is some time to go, and we are hopeful that it would be an entirely on campus program. As of now, for the current year, it has started in an online format. Where we are using various delivery mechanisms online. We are, of course, putting in a lot more effort to ensure that the learning experience and the effectiveness of learning is as good as it would have been if students were on campus. Of course, we miss the fact that they are not. We are hopeful that they will come to campus soon, but it's something that we are watching as it goes. But for next year, at this moment, I can only say that we are hopeful that it would be on campus entirely. We
Right.
will of course take all necessary precautions and so on. Um,
So there's a question on the placements status. So as such, maybe the question is related to how do the placements look like this year? How do you envision it to be affected? Is it certain sectors you think are affected more than the others? And what would it look like next year? Since we're obviously going to see an economy downturn, how do you think the placement scenario is going to look like at IIM Udaipur?
right. So two things. One is about placements in general. So the global supply chain management program has existed for a long time, and every year we have had students getting placed in good organizations in supply chain management roles. So uh, uh, that's that's really the focus there. Uh, so this year we will really have to wait and see, because generally the placement season starts around November. We are working. Like I mentioned earlier, the batch sizes are somewhat small, so we expect that it may not be as much of an issue this year. But nevertheless, it is something to be worried about. But like I mentioned, the areas in which these programs specialize seem to be particularly apt to respond to the current situation. Right? We all know how the supply chain disruptions have impacted things, and how the need to get them back on track has mattered. So, so that's what I can say. Hopefully, we are you know it should not impact too adversely, but then we have to be realistic about that as well.
Right, right. There
Uh,
are questions on cutoff. So could you help them
all
with the
right.
GMAT cutoff?
Okay. So we look at applications as an overall profile, right? I mean, the person's background, the person's work experience, the candidate's education, the interview, and so on. Okay. So so even for inviting for the interview, it's not as if there is one cutoff and we just base it on that. All right. So it is overall we take a view on the application, and that is the basis that we follow. So it's not as if there's a specific cutoff. Uh, yeah. Regarding there's a question from Dr. Vikas on the fees. So that I think you will have to wait a little bit. Last year's fees are available on our website. If you could just check that, that would be helpful. I am not immediately able to recollect the precise number, but I think it's in the region of around 15 lakhs. But I think you should be checking the website for that. There's a question from Anya Sharma on whether there's a preference for someone from an arts background or whether it's a disadvantage. So that's an interesting one. So uh, there is no, it's not as if there is a specific additional weightage given for someone from one background or the other background. Okay. It is a view form on the entire application. But I want to clarify that for both of these programs, it is not that you, for instance, need to be a techie or need to be someone with a supply chain management background or any such thing. So we are quite open, and we actually prefer having students from different kinds of backgrounds, even in these specialized programs, and we have found that useful. So we, in fact, have had doctors, and I don't know if the doctors who are chatting here are medical doctors, but we even have people from the medical profession in our supply chain management program, and we have people from an advertising background in the digital enterprise management program. So all of those possibilities are there. Uh, So Satvika's question is: does this degree come under PGDM degrees offered by other IIMs? No, this is now this is a master's in business administration degree that these programs get. a 1-year degree program, but it's an MBA now.
Great. Thank you so much, everyone, for the questions, and thank you, sir, for addressing each one of them. Can I request Professor Venkataraman to begin his presentation? He was actually going to start and present before Professor Viswanathan, but since we couldn't see him in the first few minutes, so we thought let's switch the presentations. So it's lovely to have you. Can you just try your presentation also up?
Sure. Thank you very much, Team GMAC, for the introduction. And first of all, my bad. I was running late, precisely because we were running the first batch of interviews in the first phase of our PGPBL program, which we talked about. And but anyway, so we spent a lot of time with our candidates, so that had to take priority. Shall I navigate the slides myself, or how are you doing
it?
Sir.
You are in control of your slides. You can just see.
Yeah, I can just click on the slide one of things, right?
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, I got it. Okay, that's good. So good evening, everybody, and thank you for being here, and thank you, GMAC and Collegedunia for facilitating this webinar. It's wonderful to be in a forum where there are very interested people. Nothing gets better than that, really. And good evening, Prof. Viswanathan. It was wonderful hearing you as well, from one academic to another, and good to make your acquaintance here. Okay, so pretty much like what my predecessor did here, I will try and keep this presentation short. Much of the information is available, or more information is available on our website. My purpose in running you through this presentation is to give you an overview as to what is it that we are looking for through this program. What is it that that we look for typically in a candidate, and what is it that we hope to achieve for somebody to achieve when they go through the program, right? So to that extent, I have a few slides in here. Please feel free at the end of it to jump in with some, since it's a short presentation, I'll run through it, but please keep your questions coming. And if there are questions, I will surely take it up at the end of the session. I hope that works for everybody, okay? So IIM Kozhikode is one of the older institutions. We were the 5th to be set up in the country after ABC, Lucknow, and I think the one thing that most people about IIMK talk about is how we are tucked away in God's own campus. That's taking the epithet from God's own country back in Kerala. And one thing that I can vouch for is, it's a lovely campus. It's a very different campus. It's set on 2 hills. Now, every IIM has its own appeal. So I'm not trying to say one against the other, but at the same time, there is, you can see much of that in terms of the campus if you do get a chance to come here, in whichever capacity. Having said that, there is something mystical and magical when you have hills surrounding you and so on. So that creates an immersive experience of its own. So IIMK for the last 23 years, and this is the 24th batch of MBAs which are running, not for this program, but overall, that we've been having graduates come through our halls. And currently, we have rated 5th among the IIMs, and there are various ranking systems out there. I will not bother you with all of that. But the flagship program is something that we've been running for 23 years now, much like many of the other IIMs, including the new IIMs which are there. What about this particular program, the postgraduate program in business leadership? The reason I mentioned everything about the regular PGP program is that the need for this program, we felt, was because over a period of time, there are professionals that we find out there in the industry who have a different set of skills, who have a different set of perspectives, coming with experience. And there are, several 1-year programs in MBA that you will find around the country. But we wanted to bring in something to the market, which had a little bit of a difference in terms of providing an accent on holistic inputs, right? I mean, today, if you see a lot of the MBA programs, they are excellent in terms of guiding somebody who has come relatively fresh from industry with maybe about 1 to 2 years experience, and take them through the entire drill of what it takes to be managing a business. Then of course, once you are out of an MBA program, it is up to every candidate to do what they have to do, right? I myself came through a program at IIM Calcutta that was several years ago. But when you talk about people who have a certain degree of experience under their belt, you expect that they have gone through companies. If for nothing, they've seen the inside of a company. They've had bosses, they've had team members, they've had subordinates, and they've dealt with a lot of things which many of the people who may be coming into today's 2-year standard MBA program have not gone through. Yes, there are a few people who would be there with experience. So we wanted to create something which is a little bit more holistic, something which teaches or orients. Teaching is not the right word when you talk about a master's program. We wanted to create something which facilitates the participants in this program to gain a more rounded overall perspective, a holistic perspective, even as they get the essentials that go into an MBA program. And so, in a manner of speaking, the PGPBL of IIMK is actually leveraging the participants' own experience and trying to instill in them a certain set of traits which will, we believe, hold them in good stead, especially as they go through what we call a VUCA world, right? Something which is volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. Because when you have things which are very uncertain and complex out there, you need to be grounded in something, particularly yourself as a person, and have a wider perspective of going beyond numbers and beyond the quantitative and beyond the technical to something more. And to do that, we felt that we needed to bring a few additionalities to a program to build on the experience that people bring in, and something more than what tends to dominate in several other programs for the right reasons. But here we needed to do it something differently. The other purpose of this program or objective is that many companies have professionals, let's say, who are graduates, who are engineers, who've been in the thick of things, working through, but have not had the time to reflect or reflect about adding skills for themselves. Now, the companies don't want to lose these professionals. The professionals themselves do not want to leave those companies, but at the same time, there are people who want to grow in the company, maybe faster, maybe add on something to themselves. So this is a program which also caters to companies who want to send their leading lights, young Turks, so to say, and sponsor them fully or half, whichever way the company's policy allows, so that they can be on the path to become much more well-rounded managers with a very, very strong leadership potential. Overall, when you look at this program, we are looking to facilitate or create. We can't create, but at least we can help people on their way to becoming capable, confident, empathetic. Today's COVID-19 sort of triggered situation. Everybody talk about being conscious capitalists. We are in a capitalistic world by and large, but you need to be mindful and empathetic, right? And more importantly, value-centric. So these are some of the aspects that we try and instill or emphasize a little bit more through the various aspects of this program, right? So that's what I would say is the program objective. You will find videos, you will find testimonials, you will find more expansion of these features if you go to our website for this particular program, and you will also find how students in this program currently are responding as well through their experiences. Now, this is a very new program. The first batch was flagged off last December in 2019, and they are, it is very ironical in a manner of speaking, because we talked about being in a volatile world, and barely 3 months into their term, they're already facing a very uncertain world. So, and practice doesn't get any more intensive than this, what they're going through. So while we're doing that, we are currently in the process of recruiting for the second batch of PGPBL. So what is it? It's essentially a 1-year full-time residential program with complete placement assistance. It is got inbuilt into it a 2 to 3 week global immersion, and we were picking mostly because I know the question might be there, so I'll preempt it and say that at this point of time, though things are a little uncertain, if things had been normal, the students would have found themselves typically in a top European college like in Bocconi in Italy or Mannheim or in Paris. And these are the institutions where we have a strong tie-up, and we have crafted specially design courses for our students in PGPBL to go there. This is not something which is unique to a regular 2-year MBA program, but this is something that we have crafted in for this 1-year program. Overall, you would be going through 750 to 800 hours of instruction, credit which would be credit generating, and it could be plus or minus because we do plan to bring in several workshops which may be over and above this. That's why I left it as 800 odd hours, because this also takes into account the minimum that needs to be put in for an MBA under the UGC guidelines. Our whole structure is about trying to nurture thought leadership. We want to ensure that even as students go through an MBA program, building on their own experience, they are focused not simply as problem solvers, but we want them to think themselves as part of the solution and not of the problem. And while that is there for every good MBA program that is out there, this is something that we will possibly constantly keep emphasizing as we go through it. And if you have to ask me to pick one particular thing, this is really what this program is about, right? What is the target student profile? We look for people with a minimum of 3 years experience. There is no stated maximum as such, but at the same time, I would go out on a limb and say that probably the sweet spot is about 5 years. Our current batch has got an average experience of about 4.5 to 5 years. You might, if you are a participant, if you are an aspirant, I guess if you are between 3 to 7 years, and that is the sort of experience profile which might be able to leverage this program to the best extent. Does it mean that others don't get a benefit? Not really. As in, we also have people who are more than 7 years experience. We have people with 8 years in the current batch, somebody with a 9-year experience as well. This is because the way the program is designed and the way we are seeking to cater to the industry which is looking for such leaders, which is why we have indicated this range, but it is never a limitation. The only limitation is that you need to at least have 3 years experience at the point of application, or at least before you come in for the interviews, right? What we really pride ourselves on is about the targeted admission process that we follow. It's not about a certain cutoff. It's not about what you have scored in your SSLC or graduation and so on. I heard Professor Viswanathan mention that, and I think I couldn't agree with that more. That our whole process is about identifying people who bring in a certain vibrancy to the classroom, because a lot of this is also about peer learning. So we want to ensure that this program is filled with people who bring a certain energy to the classroom, who are very entrepreneurial in the way they think, who have the drive to achieve something phenomenal in life, and not just be in a job, right? And I would go to the extent of saying that we hope that many from this program will actually go out and become job creators rather than just job seekers. So we look for all of this in the way we even select the people. We have tried to bring in few special elements in the way we look for inputs from the candidates as they apply to the program. And if you're applying into the program, you will definitely see what those elements are. And all of those things go into the overall mix of whom we call for interviews and of course whom we select. So last year we had about 1,000 odd registrations. We shortlisted about 300 odd people, and finally we have a batch of about 60 people, right? Now that is the second part of it. When I talk about targeted admissions, one thing that we are focusing on is having a very, very small cohort. Even in our classrooms, we typically have about 30 to 40 students. So even though we have 67 students in the current batch, the program is run as 2 sections, right? So this is to ensure that there is much more or very, very high degree of attention granted to the students from the faculty. At the same time, the students also, cannot be, and I'm sure Professor Viswanathan will agree, in a class of 60 to 70, it's easy to be hidden a bit for those who want to be hidden. And we want to ensure that that opportunity is far less. And to put it in a positive way, we want to ensure that the students have the ability, the opportunity to engage as much as possible within a classroom, rather than just be, knowledge seekers. So we are here not about knowledge seekers. We are here about getting an immersive kind of experiential learning, right? And this is only possible, if you are able to reflect on what you learn in the classroom. It is difficult. Having said that, you go through, you get a lot of information, you get a lot of knowledge in the classroom, but unless you are able to distill this knowledge that you get through your own lens of experience, what you come with into the program, unless you sort of relate this new knowledge that you get through what you already have, and then relate it to some new experiences that you may be going through some live projects, through some workshops and so on, you really are not leveraging the whole program. We also bring in a fairly diverse pedagogy. It's not lectures alone, it's not case studies alone, it's not simulations alone, right? A lot of it is about bringing very, very different way of learning, including sometimes you have courses which have no exams at all. Okay, it doesn't mean that it is easy to walk through, right? So this course is about being experimental in itself. This program is about being entrepreneurial in itself, and and that kind of exposure students get through multiple interfaces with industry leaders. I mean, for this program so far, we are barely into the 6 months, including through COVID and off-campus times. They must have already gone through in this 6 months, sessions and workshops with nearly about 20 odd industry leaders. We also bring in experts in their own field, academics who are at the cutting edge of research, and because people tend to think of academia and research and practice as different, and we want to try and bridge that gap here. So this is another highlight of this program that we are trying to bring in. Having said that, I mentioned the word entrepreneurial, and I mentioned the word experiment as well. So this program itself, like I said, is a bit of an experiment. We want to try and bring something different, and the current batch is actually been a revelation to us in terms of the profile they bring in. So to give you a feel, out of the 67 odd students who are there now, 33% are actually females, and females not from purely service or IT industry. We have students who have been on the shop floor in companies, in automobile companies. We have students who are designing engines and fuel injection systems and so on in high-end corporates. So about 48% of the current student profile is actually from industry which is other than IT. And I mention IT because invariably in many of the one-year programs, you tend to get a lot of IT professionals. So our entire selection process also is to drive a certain degree of diversity within our own batch, because we find that brings a certain richness to the classroom, which you cannot get with anything else. You want people who can bring in multiple. We have entrepreneurs who are running businesses already into our program as well. So this is the kind of mix that you typically would find in a class. And we are pretty happy that our last year's admission process, which was the very first time we did it, helped us get there. And we are hoping that following a similar process will achieve the same thing going ahead as well. Right? Just to wrap up on this whole course agenda or the program agenda, we at every point of time, through every course that we do, through every faculty that we bring in, through every leader that we bring in, our entire emphasis is about trying to make the participants see the whole. Otherwise we might end up seeing the missing the woods for the trees, as they say. You see the specialization, but you may not see the whole. So at all point of time, even though the MBA is supposed to be doing that all the time, in a young career, we might tend to miss that. And here upfront, we are trying to tilt the scale by bringing this orientation upfront, right up to the aspect of ensuring that a certain centeredness is there within the individual. We are trying to ensure that the multiple perspectives are already instilled in. At least the orientation is there as somebody gets into a position or a job post this program, and the realization that there is a lot of complexity around us and it will only continue to be there. To that extent, we are also borrowing in some of the workshops, a lot of wisdom, timeless in its own way, from Indian thought. We have a program, a course or a workshop called Leadership 4.0, which actually is blending these aspects as well. Finally, like I said, learning is not just about going through a series of courses within the program or taking up a certain set of electives. I think people also need the time to reflect, time to assimilate it. So there are a lot of reflective practices that we instill within the students right from the beginning, so that they get into the habit of reflecting what they have learned and then apply it so that it becomes wisdom. There's a famous saying by Rajagopalachari, who said that knowledge to become wisdom needs the lens of experience, and that is really what we are hoping to do through this program. So that's really what I want to put in front of you. And like I said, there are lots more information on our website. You may want to go through it, but for now I will stop here and will welcome your questions.
Thank you so much, Professor Venkataraman. This was a very insightful presentation, and I think you rightly pointed out reflection is very key to learning. All the time we think of just absorbing whatever you've learned in classes, and there's very little time to really go back and think and really instill and reflect upon what you've learned. And I think the times that we're all going through, it also teaches us more to reflect than to just keep running with routine. So I invite everyone to put up their questions on the chat window. I think Professor would be happy to answer some of those questions related to IIM Kozhikode only, since we've answered related to Udaipur. So please keep your questions generic, if possible. So there's a question by Anya Sharma. Is it that there's any preference, since you spoke about diversity in your classes?
That's an old question, I think that's
but I think it's reposted.
Yeah, okay.
Again, yeah. So if you could just answer, do you prefer students from a particular background?
Sure. No, we don't have any preference for any particular background. We are open to everyone. Like we said, our entire focus is about selecting people who bring a certain diversity to the classroom. So it doesn't matter if you're from an arts background or a science background or a commerce background. We have in the current mix people, yes, engineers tend to dominate, but that is not because of a certain score they got in GMAT or CAT or anything. It is just that's how the selection finally has got them. So the backgrounds, multiple backgrounds, are most welcome. Necessary cutoff, no, Priyanka, I would say that there are no specific cutoffs that we follow for various categories. Yes, we follow all the Government of India regulations in terms of how we look at candidates, and that's at the overall institute level as well. So we don't have any specific cutoffs. We don't even have a specific cutoff for a GMAT score either, right? So we look at the overall application, including the essays that you write. It goes through a very involved process with a panel which sifts through your entire application. We ask you a lot of questions to write through. It might seem like a thesis, but we want to find out about you as an individual. What do you bring to the table? It's not about the score that you get in a CAT or a GMAT or a GRE or any other score, right? So yes, that is important, but at the same time, we believe that the individual is more than the test itself. The test tells us what are your strong points, but the test entirely doesn't tell you about you as an individual, and that is what we try and figure out from the application details that you give us. Sitanshu, you have a question. We complete, let's say 3 years, let's say in July. Can we wait for the admission? If we complete 3 years, let's say in July, can we wait for the admission in the same year? Are you talking about this year, Sitanshu? Then you're fine. The current application, the second phase of it, I think gets over in mid-July. So I think that's perfectly all right.
Got it. So when are the sessions beginning for
the new batch, which will write this GMAT and come through?
Yes.
The standard, if things had been normal, we would have started with everybody coming into campus by mid to third week of December. But obviously, we are all going through, very difficult times and uncertain times. And our preference is to start with people in campus, because this is a very, when we talk about being an experiential program, ideally we would like students to come in. So there are two options open in front of us, and that also depends on how things pan out over the next 2-3 months in the country, right? Because there are some things we are bound by what the government says about travel and our own health situations, across the states. So ideally we would start in December. There is a possibility that it can get pushed back by 2 or 3 months. A third scenario, which could still play out, because suppose things get really out of hand in the country, the COVID situation is just not under control, then we would possibly have to start off on an online basis and then get people in a couple of months down the line, because there is no sense in waiting endlessly. But at the same time, what I would say is, as far as IIM Kozhikode is concerned, this is a very, very important program for us. The experiential part of it is critical too. So we will see whatever is best for the batch, best for the cohort, and accordingly take a decision depending on what is out there in terms of the COVID situation. Shahul, if I have more than 14 years experience, can you join any of the courses? Yes, Shahul, you can join, you can apply. But to be frank, I would say that somebody with your extent of experience may be better off joining one of our, sometimes you want to be in the classroom with people who have a similar experience range. And I would possibly encourage you to look at our EPGPIL, interactive learning, where you have all the classroom experience that you can get with a cohort who sits with you in studios across the country. And this is a program that MBA program that we've been running for the last 15 odd years. And that is a program that I would encourage you to look at. You can apply by all means, nothing is limiting, but I think you would be more benefited by a different program. Sitanshu, next year, if you apply for next year, perfectly.
I think this is more for a follow-up comment. I think
it's
completely work experience.
Yeah. Is there a separate placement cell for PGPBL at IMK? Yes, because the profile is different. See, in a regular PGP program, we have people with experience and without experience. The people without experience dominate, right? But since this is a new program, we expect to be handling the placements, in a more customized fashion, because the roles that people will get will also be different. So we would be handling it separately. For example, there is a separate placement cell. Ultimately, the students who manage a lot of the things, just like in any other MBA program. After all, that is what, that's where leadership has to start to.
Absolutely. I think those were the questions.
Have run out. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much, Professor Venkataraman and Professor Viswanathan, for sparing out time for this webinar and answering all questions so patiently, and also letting us know about the several programs at IIM Udaipur and IIM Kozhikode. So I think it's a difficult choice, but both the campuses are great. Like one said, it's a city of beautiful lakes, and the other is God's own country. So all the best to everyone, and take care. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much once again, Team GMAC. I think this is great, and thanks to Collegedunia as well. All right. Wish you all the best in your own, endeavors. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Goodbye, Professor Viswanathan. Nice meeting you.
Bye-bye, sir. Pleasure.
How do I get out of this place?